So use two fingers to set
Okay.
it, or one finger to kind of set it. Whatever you want. See how it went away?
Yeah.
So that's it.
It's done. It's done?
Yeah, it's going live now. Once we got the message already.
Yeah. Okay.
You're good.
It's so easy, even I can do it.
So you see
It looks
here,
pretty
so that
complicated
this
to
is
me.
what they can see.
Okay.
That's all.
So what do I do with this machine? Hold on to it.
Yeah, just
So
hold
what do you
on.
do? What's my
If-
action?
If it disconnects or something like that, make sure that it's not.
If it disconnects, what should I call for you or?
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah. I'll give you the ID and password and stuff like that.
Okay.
So we're set for now.
Okay, thank you. I can go fit anywhere, right?
You can sit anywhere you want.
What else is here?
So let me connect this. Yeah.
All set?
This is not the center of the screen, right? Is it at the center?
Yeah, you can go this.
Oh, you have to move it.
We can adjust it there or here.
Yeah, this
It's good.
okay, that's okay.
There's some delayed reaction. That's it. Okay.
Like my brain.
Okay, shall we start? Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namah Shri Shankarananda.
Namah Shri Shankarananda.
Guru Padambu Janmane.
Guru Padambu Janmane.
Savilasa Mahamoha.
Savilasa Mahamoha.
Graha Grasaika Karmane.
Graha Grasaika Karmane.
Let's chant verses number 44, 45 and 46. Number 44. Jagato yadupadanam
Jagato yadupadanam
mayam adaya tamasim
mayam adaya tamasim
nimittam shuddha sattvam tam
nimittam shuddha sattvam tam
uchyate brahma tadgira
uchyate brahma tadgira
yada malina sattvam tam
yada malina sattvam tam
kama karmadi dushitam
kama karmadi dushitam
adatte tatparam brahma
adatte tatparam brahma
tvam padena tadochyate
tvam padena tadochyate
Tritayim api matam muktva tam muktva paraspara virodhinim
paraspara virodhini
akhandam satchidanandam mahavakyena lakshyate.
mahavakyena lakshyate.
Okay. So we have started to do verse number 45. So the flow of the text here is that there are two elements of teaching. So this is what is, as we have seen before, the filters that we have to use in our ascertainment of this rather amazing truth that we cannot believe. The filters, the three-way filters that we have to use is Shruti, Yukti and Anubhava. So those are the three factors that we have to use. So Shruti is, out of these, Shruti is the most important one in the saying that this unbelievable fact, unbelievable that I am not just a mortal human being, but I am the very essence of immortality. I am immortal. This amazing fact cannot be done unless there is some authority and communication with love. And this is provided by the Shruti. So you can doubt it if you want to, and this is what happens is that generally speaking we do not stumble onto this truth without knocking around quite a bit in our lives. And if you do stumble along rather easily, that's because you had done a lot of work in your previous lives. Somehow that continues on, but ultimately it requires somehow an introduction to this amazing truth, and then because we begin to doubt it, it's not an easy thing for us to see. You ask the Shruti, can it be true? And the Shruti says an emphatic yes. Absolutely. So this kind of authority with love can only be provided by Shruti. And only be provided by someone who has also gone through this discipline and Shruti and has a teacher and so on, and it is done in person. Otherwise this doesn't work. This just doesn't work. And so the texts and reading books and so on and so forth can be used as a sahakari karanam, as a secondary thing to, like for example, I've never met Swami Maheswaranji in my life. So, one can say that how can you be influenced by someone whose only books you are reading? You've never met him. But now I've come to a point where he speaks to me. My clarity of learning through Swami Chinmayananji and Swami Dayanandji has been for so long that when he says something, it rings a complete bell to me. I said, yes, it's as though he's talking to me. So there also, this is a live teaching as far as I am concerned, honestly, especially because it is in my Matra Bhasha, in my own mother tongue. And when he says something, it just comes up alive every morning when I read it. So anyway, this is Shruti. This is Shruti. And the second part is Yukti. So Yukti means that if the Shruti says that the fire is really cold, then I cannot believe that. That is not Yukti. It has to be consistent with some logic. And so the Yukti is also important. And finally, the Anubhava. So Anubhava here means that something where you have really experienced, and you can experience this logic. And by the way, this is the interesting thing, that the logic and experience, so Yukti and Anubhava, are provided by the dream and the deep sleep. See, here's the thing. Because, this is all the design of Ishvara. Well, absolutely all the Mahatmas say this for a fact. It's possible that the dream experience has some medical value. That's possible. It's all secondary. That you relax a little bit, and also in the deep sleep in particular. So it does have some some medical value. But the main thing, this is like drinking amritam. Really, this is like teaching a nectar of amritam. The main thing is that without this the dream and the deep sleep, you can never be convinced. Never. So the dream state is very influential in proving the mithyatvam of what you see. Mithyatvam means that it seems real, but it isn't. This is the definition of mithya. And so, so that is the landing spot for us to inquire into the mithyatvam of what is experience. And the Mandukya Upanishad, of course, specializes in it. All of them do, but Mandukya and the Karika, which we are doing on the Saturday morning classes, it's actually going into the great depth of how the landing spot of your yukti is the dream state. And from there you can now correlate to your waking state and make sure that the two are seen by you as identical, literally identical, with some minor differences. The Jagrat Avastha takes a longer time, and the Swapna Avastha takes a much shorter time. But the essence of it is that whatever you see is mithya. Whatever you see. And this fact cannot really be appreciated unless the dream state is given. Ishvara's design on this is absolutely marvelous. Despite that, we don't see it. But if we have any chance of seeing it, we must go through this door of analyzing the dream. So the dream is a very good analysis of the yukti. Then look at the anubhava. Anubhava is the deep sleep. Why is the anubhava deep sleep? For several reasons. One is that you have a complete experience of Advaita. Complete experience. And not only that, even the very basis of your Dvaita, of multiplicity and duality, which is yourself as a ahankara. Ahankara is the basis of duality. Ahankara means, ahankara vritti means that the thought that I am a person. I'm a living person. Then you can add to it lots of things, but I am a living person. And implicit in that is that I'm a limited living person. Because this is not ahankara where you say I'm an unlimited person. First of all, you don't have that experience. That comes much later on. And so ahankara is the very essence of duality. And in deep sleep, the ahankara also disappears. So the deep sleep is actually an anubhava of duality. And another thing is that the anubhava of duality results in complete happiness. Because another thing which is implicit in our doubts is that I've got to do something to be happy. See, this is another falsehood which is embedded in the very life of all the human beings. And it is actually aided by the instructions from the parents. Hey, come on, do something. Don't just sit there. Which is true, in the beginning you have to do some things. But the basis of our life is that I have to do something in order to be happy. And this has enormous implications. Do something means I've got to do something significant, better than others. I can't just be, so Swami Dayanand used to say that. He says one of the worst thoughts that a person can have is that I am an insignificant being. No one likes it. This is common to everything. Insignificance is something which I don't like, I don't want to be, and so on. And yet, the implicit thing about the anubhava is that I must do some things, and I must be better than others. I've got to accomplish things, and it is a wonderful thing to feel that I'm smart, I am powerful. This is underlying all of the stupidity in the world. And the interesting thing is that the deep sleep negates it. Because in the deep sleep, what are you doing? What have you accomplished? Nothing. And you cannot even accomplish deep sleep. That just comes to you. In fact, you have to at least start abandoning doing things. Only then the deep sleep comes. So the deep sleep is an anubhava which is just amazing. Because it proves to you Advaita. It proves to you that the Advaita is very pleasant. And so if you look at the three parts to it, Shruti, Yukti and Anubhava, all together form the platform from which you have to really think about. There's a lot more to be done, but the beginning of that is to think about the confluence of these three things, Shruti, Yukti and Anubhava. And you get Ishvara's lots of hints at it. And it has to be guided by teacher who points it out, otherwise it just doesn't strike one. But after it's pointed out, then hopefully we will follow the edict of the Shruti and so on. So anyway, that's just a beginning part of it. So going back to verse number 43, this is pointed out. I'm just revising that in 43, as you know. Para apara atmanoho evam yuktya sambhavita ekata. So he says up to now in the previous verses of 40, 41, etc., where the Panchakosha was talked about, the Sushupti, Linga, Bhane, all of this was talked about. Then the logic was given. So this is really Yukti, the logic which I just talked about earlier, which is the dream state and the deep sleep state. So that was all talked about. So the first line of verse number 43 says that so far we have provided you with the Yukti. The second line says, now Shruti comes in. Because Yukti means that you have just softened it up. Like if you're making some dal, then really the dal is nice to soak it overnight so that it can be cooked easily. It's not easy to cook a dal unless it has been soaked for a while. So the Yukti is just soaking your buddhi so that you're ready for it. But the cooking is not done by the Yukti. Because Yukti can, any logic can be negated by some other logic. So this is why they say the logic alone is not very useful. And because one of the things that somebody can say is, how do you know this? You're talking about Ishvara doing this and so on and so forth. It can just be incidental. As people say that the whole world is just incidental. There's no design by it and so on. And you have no way to dispute that. And if the person is actually better read than you are, then he'll give you all kinds of reasons. Number one is this, number two is this, then you say, okay, you're right, I don't know what to do. So the Yukti by itself is not very powerful. All it does is that it softens you up. Shruti is the one that confronts you and say, you, just think about it. You are the one. So that is done by Tattvamasyadi Vakyaihi And so now, in the next few verses, as you know already, the Tattvamasyadi Vakya is now talked about, is explained. And here, this is really just a kind of an elementary text. These are, you have to read this in more, the more well-read you are, then you become more influenced by Tattvamasyadi Vakya. So this is just an introduction, an advanced introduction, but an introduction. But anyway, it says that the sentence which says that you are is the Shruti, and the elements of the Shruti are now being explained in the next few verses. So this is the sequence that we've been going through. Then, in the sequence, number 44 was talked about Tat, the Tat word. That Tat means that. So that word is now explained. What do you mean by that? That you are. So that means the creator of our life and the entire set of our experiences, that creator is meant by that. The word Tat, that creator is meant by the word Tat. So there we saw that the creator is both the creative intelligence as well as the material. We've seen this. So, Jagataha yad upadanam maya adaya tamasim and nimittam shuddha sattvam tam uchyate brahma tadgira. So here, for example, if you take the example of a spider, then the thinking of the spider that I must create a web. Let me now create a web. It's a remarkable thing to see. Really, it's just incredible. You had no web in the morning. No web in the night time when you go in there. You get up in the morning and there is a web. And so behind this is some intelligence. The fellow thinks about where to put it. In my office where I'm sitting down, if I'm right in where I'm working, there's no web there. There's no web there. But out in the corner, when I rarely just go to that section, there is a web. Then it comes up. I have to completely remove it every few days. So this fellow is a very intelligent one. He says this corner is a good one because it is not going to be destroyed by anyone. And it's hardly visible. He always must be thinking about it. And this is where the small bugs can be caught. And so this is the intelligence. And then he sets forth in building the web out of his own body, of his own spit. This is exactly what happens. And so both the nimitta karanam and the upadana karanam are within the power of the spider. So here also in that manner, the tamasim mayam becomes upadana karanam. Avidya, tamasim, vidya becomes, and in fact really speaking, you just look at it, Maya which is defined as Yama Sa Maya. One which is not there but appears to be there is Maya. So for example, when you're looking at each other, we all look like solid objects, solid people. It is not true. It is not true. It is just our own thinking that is creating solidity in others. And so this is, you and I are both the karya, or the result of Maya. To see solidity in things when it is not there is created by Maya. This is the substance of the creation. This is the web of the creation. So that is what is called tadupadanam. And so that is from the tamas aspect of Ishvara. So there is only 3 gunas. It's just remarkable that out of the 3 gunas, which is sattva, rajas and tamas, the whole creation comes about through the combination of these 3 gunas. And the tamas guna is the solidity, and what is seen is tamas, and how it is seen is the sattva. So there is intelligence in the spider, and there is also the body of the spider. Both of them are there. So this is given in verse number 44. And just to revise it, we mentioned this, that really what is unique about Vedanta, what is unique about Vedas, really, Vedas, the teaching of the Vedic teaching, is that we don't see anyone else having this explanation as part of their school of thought. That Ishvara is both Upadana Karanam and Nimitta Karanam. And everybody else believes they are the Nimitta Karanam. And when it comes to Upadana Karanam, the best that can then happen is, there was a discussion, it was interesting, Swami Dayanandji was telling us once, there was there was a Christian guy that kind of challenged him, that where are you coming up with all these strange ideas, you should really become a Christian and this, that or the other. So Swamiji was needling him and he says, so you guys believe that the whole world was done in 7 days? He says, yes, absolutely. The whole creation was done in 7 days. It shouldn't take any longer than that. So Swamiji said, so he was arguing with him. So where did he get the material from? So his answer was, listen, don't ask me those questions, because God is so resourceful. He will find it from someplace. He will discover it, and so on and so forth. Actually, this is a good answer when you come to think about it, because that is really what it is. But it is a non-enquiry good answer, because it is saying, I don't care. Let him figure it out. All I'm saying is that this is the world I'm seeing. But then the systematic understanding of how this comes about and so on, which allows you to not just believe in Ishvara, but to have Shraddha in the moksha, only comes about when you know exactly how it is done. So there, we are unique in saying that really both, and by the way, even within the Indian school of thoughts, there are a lot of what I would call smriti, which means that these are human beings talking about how things are, not the Vedas, but the human beings. So, for example, all human-related religious thoughts fall under this smriti. You can say that really even Jains and Buddhism and so on can be called as a smriti. And one of the smritis, and I just happen to be reading this in Brahma Sutra every morning, I'm in that section, one of the smritis is the Sankhya Smriti. Sankhya Smriti. And so the Sankhya way of knowing is that Pradhanam is the Upadana Karanam. Ishvara is the Nimitta Karanam and Pradhanam is the Upadana Karanam. So there we argue that, listen, in fact this is going to come in a minute, I'll explain that you cannot have a Jadavastu. So we asked the Sankhya people, is Pradhanam a Jadavastu? Is it inert or is it Chaitana? They said, no, it's inert. how can inert create something? Unless you can say the Jadavastu was also created by a Chetana. Like for example, the fan is running and it is giving you air and it is powered by electricity and you are not doing anything. It's not as though you are creating the air. So you can say the Jadavastu is creating the air. But no, because it is really the Kalpana of the Chetana Vastu. Some creative person who figured out how to make electricity. So that is really, it doesn't mean that the fan did not create the all by itself. Anyway, so basically both the material cause and the intelligence cause, the source of that is Ishvara. So that is talked about in this verse called Tat. Jagataha tad yad upadanam mayam adaya tamasim nimittam shuddha sattvam tam uchyate brahma tatgira. So this is the one half of the Tattvamasi. Then we come to verse number 45, which we started last week, and let's finish it today. Let's go on with it. This now talks about the Tvampada. Tvampada. So Tvampada means you, the individual. So he says, Yada malina sattvam tam kama karmadi dushitam adatte tat param brahma tvampadena tada uchyate. So he says, in the English sentence of that, when the same limitless Brahman takes the Prakriti, so Prakriti here means the Maya, predominated by impure Sattva, contaminated by desire and action as Upadi, then it is denoted by the word Tvam in the Tattvamasi. So that's the English translation. So let's look into that. So here, there is a key difference between Tat and Tvam. There are a lot of differences between Tat and Tvam, obviously. One is Ishvara, the other one is an individual, and so on. But here, the one key differentiating point is Malina Sattva. Malina Sattva means one which is contaminated. It is dirty. Dirty means that it is something that dirt creates a problem. Is not clean. The cleanliness means that, so for example, the body by itself is clean. But when you get dirty, then it's an external thing that makes the body dirty. Something like that. This is the meaning of the word malina. Anyway, the malinatvam, the dirtiness comes from kama karmadi dushanam. So this we will now focus on. So it is defined by desire and the desire prompted actions. This is the one that keeps us limited and in a prison of our own limitation. The perpetuation of desire and the actions. So desires that create the karma which is created by desires, and karma creates more desires, so this cycle continues. This is the characteristic of that. But before we come to that, we can ask a question. How is the whole creation created by Ishvara? did he not have kama? Did he not have the desire? You cannot create anything without desire. And we see that there is a creation. So how can we say there is some problem here? Ishvara must have had the desire to create. He cannot just be desireless and saying, I don't care, whatever happens, happens. No. If he is the very basis of the whole creation, then he must have had a desire to create. This point needs to be understood very well. Okay? So it means that there is a method to the creation. There is a prayojana. Prayojana means that there is an end result of the creation. That must be there. And it's a funny thing, because the desire is for things that you don't already have. You cannot have a desire for something that you already have. Very obvious. Anytime you dissect a desire, then the seed of that is the kvang that I want it. Now, if that is the case, Ishvara, is there something that Ishvara doesn't have? And in fact, in the Gita, Swami Maheshananji points out, na anavaptam avaptavyam. It's in the, I think we've already done this in the course of 4th or 5th chapter, somewhere there. Na anavaptam avaptavyam. So Krishna says, for me, there is nothing that I have not yet acquired. Because everything that I need to have, I already have. Makes sense? Because he is the Sarvagya, Sarvashaktiman, Sarvavyapaka, he is the whole thing. There is nothing lacking. Nothing lacking in the Ishvara. And in fact, there are sections in the Upanishads where it says that in the Taittiriya Upanishad also it says akamayata, that he desired. So that means there must have been a desire. So this is what is called Veda Tatparyam. So this is where you find that in many of the Upanishads and books and so on, there are contradictory statements. In one place he says he is desiring. Another place, like in Gita, which is a Gita actually, but there must be some reference to some Upanishad also, that anavaptam avaptavyam, that I don't really need to do anything. So there's a conflict between them. What is the truth about this? And so we will tell you the truth in just a second. But there are various ways where people can explain this. One of the ways is the case of a king who has everything that he desires. There is nothing that he cannot have. And yet he plays some kind of a game. You know, sometimes you find this these Maharajas of India, which they actually got this sport from England, is the polo. So it's very possible that if you belong to a polo club and you are just one of the commoners, you are not the Maharaja, then you want to play so that you can get some reward or some money or something. But in the case of this Maharaja, He doesn't play polo except that he just wants to have a creation where others can play, and he also participates in it. And in Vyasa, in Shrishti, he says, Lokavattu Leela Kaivalyam is one of the ones. So this Leela is some kind of a play where he doesn't really need to do it, but he just thinks it will be good for everyone to have this play. So this is one of them. This is one of the things. And so there are some various ways to do that. Finally, this explanation is the most relevant, and this is the one we should retain in our mind, which I'm going to now tell you. And if you look at a detailed analysis by Mahatmas, this is what it comes to. Okay? And the example is that of you and I breathing. Breathing. This is the most relevant example of the creation of Ishvara. So here's the thing. Suppose you are put under water, and somehow somebody is playing. Let's say you're just playing, and somebody dips your head underneath the water. Your immediate desire is to start to come up. Supposing that person is a criminal and he actually doesn't want you to come up. He keeps you underneath the water. Imagine what will happen to you after half a minute or so. That used to be one of my sports in earlier lives, part of my life. How long can I stay? I think if I recall, it was 1 minute and some seconds. I don't remember how many, 15, 20 seconds or so. People have done it for several minutes. Regardless, if that were to happen, you will have a desire to breathe. Isn't it? You'll have a very severe desire to breathe because you think that you will drown and you will die if you don't breathe. So this is a desire for breathing. However, right now, are you aware of the desire for breathing? Breathing is your swabhava, is your second nature. So there is something going on where you are not even aware of it. Inhalation, exhalation, which is the very basis of your life. I tell you, when I was young, I have a history of very severe asthma. And I cannot tell you what the suffering is of an asthmatic person. You cannot breathe. And it's just the whole life becomes completely so unpleasant, it's unbelievable. And I've come close to dying a couple of times, really. And so breathing is a very important thing. But for most of us, breathing is a swabhava. We are not aware of it. It just happens. So, it is described in the Vedanta Shastra that the whole creation is like the breathing of Ishvara. Why and how can we say that? It is natural. at least in the human beings, there is a possibility that I may not be able to breathe. Like if you have asthma or if somebody is drowning you or something like this. In the case of Ishvara, that situation never happens. Because Ishvara is not a limited thing. He's an unlimited. And so the creation and dissolution, recreation, dissolution is natural. There is no desire. And also in his case, it is not as though it was ever started. So for example, in the baby, it's interesting if you really, it's just a remarkable thing, how the baby, nowadays they've got a lot of these, I don't know all the things that they do, ultrasound and MRI and so on and so forth, where you can see the heart beating in the baby. Then the lungs are formed, and then the breathing starts. I guess for a while the baby doesn't need to breathe because he or she is in the mother's womb. But then to get ready for the independence, the lungs are formed. And as soon as you're born, then the lungs automatically start to breathe for you. So there is a start of breathing. In the case of Ishvara, there is no start of the creation. And the creation is like breathing. It's a swabhava. This is the best way to look at it. And in my deep reading of Swami Maheshanandaji's book, this is consistent and very spread out, that explains everything. Swabhava. And I was looking to see where he has not given the reference in the Upanishads where he says it is like breathing. I've read it somewhere, but it's not there. I can't remember it. But this is exactly what it is. It is exactly like natural. And in that sense, prana, which is the very essence of breathing. Prana means prana, apana, udana, samana, etc. All of these things, it is said, this is the most incorruptible natural phenomena that we possess. Swami Maheshanji has given a little story, I'll explain it to you. So he says that this always happens in our mythological stories. There is always a battle between devas and asuras. Each are trying to, the devas just want to sit there and meditate, and the asuras hate it. And they say, why should they be just enjoying themselves? We are going to just disrupt their nice thinking. And so the devas get very perturbed. And then the asuras also, they also have the same power they can get from Shiva. So Shiva says that, you know, whatever, I'll give you whatever you want. He doesn't say, no, you are a very bad person. I cannot give you the same results. That person is better. It's not like that. It is your own karmas, whatever you want to do. Then, then Shiva will just give you. So the devatas, what they started this process, in the story, that they were really very sick and tired of these asuras disturbing them. So they went to Shiva and said, please, can you give us the power to really defeat these people? And just let me know where we can sit. So the Ishvara says, okay, sit in your tongue. This is just one spot I'll give you. So just sit in your tongue and make sure that you always say pleasant things to people. Don't abuse the power of so on and so forth. So this is what, as Swami Viditadmananda was saying, this is called Daivi Sampat. The Daivi Sampat is that you use a tool for the good of you and the good of others. So the Devas said, okay, all right, we'll do that. The Asuras were not going to give up. So they all went to Shiva and said, Shiva, please give us the ability to have some more power. So Isha says, Tathastu, okay, you can have it. So you know what they did? They also sat down in the tongue, in the Vani. So what that happens is, Vani is corruptible. This is why Vani is corruptible. And this is our daily experience. Most of the time we are well speaking. But once in a while we get angry and we attack people. How could you see that? You are stupid. I never did this. This is the Asuri Sampat. So the Deva said, oh my God. Now the Asuras have really corrupted our own way of thinking. Then they said, you know, this is an interesting thing. He says, Swami Maheshanji gives the example. So the corruption all comes from the corruption of the talk. So, for example, the corruption of a lower officer in India, where you go in for something, and so the person says, oh, this will take a long time. This will take a long time. So then, of course, the person also says, is there some way I can get it done quicker? Yes. Okay, don't tell anyone. You give me 5,000 rupees and I will get it done for you. So this is corruption of the Vani. Of course, with the help of your manas and so on and so forth. Anyway, Vani is corruptible. So similarly, then they said, okay, let's go to the nose, where I just want to have a pleasant smell. No, Asuras got there also. You cannot always have pleasant smell. Sometimes there is an unpleasant smell also. So finally, and as the story goes, you sat down in the prana. Prana is incorruptible. So the Asuras cannot go there. It just does the job without asking for any permission. And also the most important thing, this is the essence of the story, there is no kamana, there is no desire to breathe. This is the key one here. Because unless you are being dipped or you are very sick or something, when you have an extra desire to breathe, the natural thing is that it happens automatically. It blesses you, most of the time you're not even aware of it. This is the essence of the difference between Tat and Tvam. So now we can close it off. This needs a lot of explanation in the future. That Malina Sattvam, Yada Malina Sattvam, Tam here refers to Maya. Means Tam is a Strilinga. It's a feminine noun. Tam is a masculine noun, but Tam is a feminine noun. So the feminine noun refers to Maya Shakti, which is a feminine Shakti. Not the gender, but it's just that in between Prakriti and Purusha, this is the Prakriti. So the Tam here refers to Maya Shakti. In the Maya Shakti, when it is Malina Sattvam, it becomes tvam. And what is the nature of malina sattva? Kama karmadi dushita. What characterizes an individual, a human being, any being, but especially the human being, because we have the ability to get free in our lives. The animals don't. They have to go through the whole thing without becoming free. But the human beings can become totally free. And what's keeping us from getting free is being under the spell of kama karma. And here, this is sowing the seed, which will be discussed in more detail later on, and we'll close the loop on this, is if I can live spontaneously, just like prana, when I am not so hung up on getting things done, this is the opening the door to freedom. And so this is a very important way of looking at things. That the malina sattva, which is peculiar to the individual, is characterized by my asakti, my complete association with my desires as my svabhava. When in fact the desire is not my svabhava, it's an outsider. This is the dirt. You know what I was talking about, the dirt. This is the dirt. It doesn't belong to me. But right now, I don't see it any other way. So anyway, this is just a beginning. This is just a defining what the Tvampada is. That the Tvampada is the self-imprisonment of my taking my experiences consisting of kama karma. That I must desire for things, which then gives rise to the samskara of doing things. By doing things, I find I am not completely happy. So then I get new karmas, new desires, and so on. It goes. When in fact, as we will see sometime later, I hope in this course, if not in some other classes and so on, there is a possibility of living spontaneously and responding to the previous samskaras as things happen, just doing the duties and fulfilling them and not prolonging it by increasing my desires. So this is the approach that we have to take. And if I do that, I'm on my way to becoming more like Ishvara, who is already free and whose creation is like breathing. Beautiful. This is a great analysis, I find. Very complete. So it's not as though that breathing is not important. One should not look at it that way. But it's not as though you have to desire for it. It's a very beautiful thing, really speaking. I find that when you do meditation, you are immediately connected to Ishvara, because the power to breathe and all the portions of implementation to breathe is all given to you. Oxygen is given to you. Your bellows are given to you. And the food that you need to keep your lungs going is given to you. Sometimes it requires extra effort. Like for example, I've had a heart problem, and so to me, working out almost every day is imperative. My cardiologist had said, listen, this is important for you, and I'm so happy that I had a very severe heart attack in a bypass operation 20 years ago. And every time I see her, go back to see her, she kind of winks at me and he says, good, you're still alive, 20 years after the operation. But then she doesn't have to tell me. Every time that I must go for a cardiovascular. I do my elliptical every day. So I have to, if I have some problems with the breathing, then I have to make sure that I do my part in working on it. So yeah, there is some work involved in doing so. But if I do, then the breathing for the rest of the 23 and a half hours, I'm out of breath for half hour, is very natural. What a beautiful thing. And in fact, when we study more a way of living where you are not your life is not prompted by desires, planning, I do this, I do that, but let things happen as they do, is the way to go. So the seed of that, I find, is a very beautiful one. Yada malina sattvam tam kama karmati dushitam. The defect in the way we imprison ourselves, the defect, the dushanam, is kama karmati. And from a kama karma, then all the other things also come, krodha, and your disappointments and so on, and you correct it, as though now you're not going anywhere. This is not freedom. Anyway, so this then in the definition, and I probably spend more time than I should, this is the definition of Tvampada. The Tatpada was already given. So the Tatpada was, so now Swami Maheshanji summarizes this very well. He says, Maya has three forms. One is Tamasa, one is Shuddha Sattva. These two are the upadhis of Parameshwara. And the third form is Malina Sattva, which is the upadhi for the jiva. Okay, so this is the this is how it is to be summarized. So now we go to the two words in the Mahavakya, which is Tat and Tvam, have been covered. Then the third word in the Mahavakya, which is Asi, is now taken up in verse number 46. So Asi means that you are. The identity between Tat and Tvam is being discussed. So let's look at that in number 46. Tritayim apitam muktva paraspara virodhinim akhandam satchidanandam mahavakyena lakshyate. So let's look at each word. Tritayim. Tritayim means the three types of upadhis. What are the three types of upadhis? Tamasim and Shuddha Sattva, which is the upadhi of Ishvara, and Malina Sattva, which is the upadhi of the Jiva. These three, because they are mutually opposing to each other, and we will discuss that in a minute, but maybe later on, I don't know how much, we'll see. Maybe we won't go into, we'll just do the words, but not have the whole discussion on 46 today. Anyway, Paraspara Virodhinim, Tam again is Mayam. So that is the Prakriti. So the word Prakriti, Maya, Avidya, all these are referring to the same thing. There's no big difference between them. There's some small aspects of it. Muktva means not paying attention to them, discarding them. Then Akhandam, non-dual, Satchidanandam, a Brahman which is the nature of Satchit and Ananda, is unfolded through the implied sense by the Mahavakya, Tattvamasi, and the other forms of Mahavakya also, Ayam Brahma, also Mahavakya, and etc. So all the Upanishads, all the Vedas have different forms. Anytime there is an implied identity between the individual and the total is a Mahavakya. And there are so many of them. Tattvamasi is not the only one. It is only given from a teacher to a student. But otherwise, there are many Mahavakya. So the Mahavakya unfolds the truth of Satchidanand by discarding the upadhis of the three kinds of upadhis. So the Ishvara upadhi is also discarded, the Jiva upadhi is also discarded, and the essence of them is left. And this is done, if you go back to verse number 43, Bhagatyagena lakshyate. Bhagatyagena lakshyate means that you don't throw the baby with the bath water. You throw just the bath water, and the baby is now kept. And so the baby here is Brahman, where the upadhis are discarded and the essence of the upadhi is kept, which we will discuss in more detail, but very simply. So for example, the only difference between this room and a huge hall is the upadhi of this room and the upadhi of the large room. So if you discard those, then a small room space and a big hall space, only the space is left. That's the essence of this whole thing, which is the hallmark of Vedanta. See, you should see this very clearly. What we are studying is so unique, so simple also, but very unique in the way it is explained. And this is the reason where the goal of life is not just mukti over time, but immediate. It's not possible any other school of thought. It's not as though we are extremely proud of it, that we would feel that we are unique. No one else is as good as we are, nothing like that. But we don't find it. It will be nice to find another form of Vedanta where you can have a discussion. You can shake hands and hug each other and say, wonderful, great. You're using some different words, we're using some different words, but we're essentially saying the same thing. We don't. This is unique. This is why I tell you, we don't realize it. That, I sometimes think about this. India is really an unpleasant place to live. If you look at the heat and the dust and the overcrowding, and the corruption, and so much chaos, really is not a pleasant, that's why I'm here, not there. Because I used to feel that there must be a better place than this, and there is. So despite that, do you know that if you are a future baby, you are rather be born in India than someplace else. This is why the population of India is increasing so much that it's unbearable. Why would you think that? Because these babies are not stupid. They are not stupid. You know, when you say population control and so on and so forth, we've been trying population control forever. Doesn't work. When the babies come, they come. And it is a unique place for one reason. Self-knowledge is not a possibility anywhere else. Just amazing. You may not get it. You may have to be, 99.9% of the people. But you know what? It has started. Taking a birth there has started. And slowly, after many births, slowly, then you start thinking about it. At least the possibility is there. So this is the uniqueness. The uniqueness of the identity between Jiva and Ishvara. We don't find anybody else discussing this. Amazing. This is the hallmark of Vedanta. But then it has to be understood and explained and accomplished. There's a lot to that, but at least the seeds are there. So we will continue with that in the analysis of the Mahavakya. So the Akhandam Brahma, Advaya Ananda Brahma. But this is unfolded by the Mahavakya as it is given. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Namaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Vinto Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om.
Is it possible to really have a desireless state? Kind of implying that people, suppose you did please say.
So, sorry, your question is it possible to have?
Be a desireless state.
So this we will discuss, Jyoti, in more detail later on. Yes, the answer is yes. But desireless in this form of working with prarabdha karma. So this all has to be, we have to explain all this. What does it mean? But just very briefly, it means that you have to understand the role of Ishvara in our lives. One has to, not you personally, I'm just saying, we have to understand the presence of Ishvara in the sense that you will be taken care of. As far as your aspirations for freedom from all the problems in life is concerned, it is already taken care of if you simply pay attention to it. So by fulfilling desires, you are not going to do that. All you will do is to be in relatively in good, in a happy state. But that's not what we are talking about. We want something which is the swarupa of the human being should be Satchidananda. This is what we want. And that is possible if you don't chase individual desires and fulfilling them. So you live in a case where you bring Ishvara into your life and just do whatever is happening. And not carelessly, but just pay attention to your own self, the very nature of Ishvara in yourself. Yes, that is possible. Yes, very much.
I think Sri Ramakrishna in his gospel, he analyzes himself and he says, I have to have this desire, otherwise there would be no life. Kind of implying he would just become that, Brahman or the self-realized, which he was. So he would intentionally have little desire so that he could still maintain the human body.
So I think I can see that where it is a feigned desire to help someone, even if you are. And so that also becomes a svabhava. There are teachers who are jivan muktas and they don't want to really teach. They are there and they are given complete freedom. There are so many Mahatmas who just say, you know what, I'm just going to sit here and this is okay. I don't need to teach anyone. There are other teachers who feel, just like in the case of Ishvara, that just because it's very clear to me, and in fact this is encouraged, this is the better teacher, who shares the knowledge with others. And so not only are you completely done, but you also, because otherwise if you don't teach, then how is this going to be propagated? But both of them are okay. There's no papa in the case of this Mahatma who doesn't want to teach. No papa, he's done. So there's always there. So in the case of Ramakrishna, for him to say that I have to have a desire so that I can get up in the morning and teach, that is explainable, yes. Yeah.
I still, because I'm still having a difficult problem understanding prana as the basic thing. But, in position, there are babies who sometimes come out and don't breathe.
Yes.
And we have to, hit them with, the tradition.
Right, yes.
And, many other situations that happen. So I guess that's their prana karma, that they may not understand.
Yeah, no, these are exceptions to the rule in the sense that, just like even I was telling you that I had a lot of asthma and breathing was rare to me. It was very difficult for me to breathe. There were no medicines available. And I would have reactions in those days and so on. I mean, I really suffered a lot. So those are all exceptions, but I'm just talking about the normal where breathing is taken for granted, and it should be. It should be. There's no need to have a desire to breathe. That's all that is. That's all that is being said. There's no more questions? Oh my goodness. Yes, sir. Sorry, Arvind.
So we talked about Suddha Sattva Guna.
Yes.
Which is Parameshwar's Upati, right?
Yes.
Can we tell him as an Ishwar?
Yes,
Okay.
that is the Ishvara.
And
Yeah.
Malin Sattva is a Jiv's Upati.
Correct.
So now I'm trying to correlate Maya and Avidya. How can we...
So the Maya and Avidya are usually the same thing, except for usually the Maya is seen to be the samashti avidya, and avidya is supposed to be the vyashti avidya. It is the individual's avidya. But the individual avidya is really an aspect of the total avidya. So it is part and parcel of the creation where, in fact, it's interesting, when the baby is born, when any baby is born, is completely engulfed in avidya. Completely. There is only avidya. There is no vidya whatsoever. But slowly, the cloud of avidya is broken, one at a time, because the touch of the mother, the form of the mother, the sound of the mother is slowly becoming something, and then the father and the other ones, and so on and so forth. Recently we had a relative of ours, she brought a 10-month-old baby in our house. And it was fascinating to see this baby. So this baby doesn't even see the father that much because he's very busy and this, that or the other. So she only sees the baby, is the mother. If she saw her mother disappear for a second, she started howling. It was so funny to see. She won't go anywhere. She wanted to be held by the mother. She wanted to make sure. It was interesting to see when Manisha was going in another room, she will follow her like this. And when she comes back, she followed, absolutely glued to it, as though this is my Ishvara. No one else should even touch me or anything. It was an extreme case, but it was a really funny situation. Anyway, so when the baby is born, you are completely ignorant. Then slowly, there is ignorance of sound, touch, light, food, then people, names, one by one. So the avidya is a part and parcel of the creation. And this is also an aspect of the total maya. So as I've mentioned this before, I've read somewhere and it really deeply impressed me, that just like you have a painter who uses paint to make a picture, Ishvara makes the whole creation through the paint of Maya. This is the painting of the Maya. And so that is called Maya. And then the individual avidya is only an aspect of that. It is nothing new. It's not as though you have Maya on one side and avidya on the other. It's not like that. Just an aspect of that is the original.
And I have one more.
Yeah.
So Suddha Sattva and Malin Sattva, it has nothing to do, or it is not Brahman's characteristic, because it can't be, right?
Well, if you can hold off that question,
It's little sometime between Brahman and Ishwar when we try to understand.
So we'll discuss hopefully some more, but just to bring you up to speed on that. So the Ishvara is the Shuddha Sattva of Brahman.
Yeah.
Okay? So space, for example, is like Brahman in the sense that it can never be contaminated. Space, not air, but space. So, but the space can appear to be limited. So that in that way, the upadhi of Brahman in Ishvara, in the big upadhi is Ishvara. The big upadhi of Brahman is Ishvara. The small upadhi of Brahman is Jiva. Yeah. And the common thing, but this we will explain in more detail in the next few verses. Yeah.
When you say that tamas is the upadhan karanam of Ishvara, are we referring to just the jad vastu, or are we referring to as tamas as ignorance?
Tamas as ignorance. Tamas as Maya. So the Maya, as I think I talked about this earlier, is the body of Ishvara, the creation of Ishvara. So the tamas means the solidity of the whole of creation, which is represented by Maya. The appearance of solidity, even though it's an appearance, but it is solid. The multiplicity of it is the body of Ishvara, which is designated by Maya. Yeah, so the Maya is the tamasa aspect of Ishvara. And then the individual who is a Chetana person, who is, you and I, that is sentient, that is an expression of the Shuddha Sattva of Ishvara. Yeah. So we will have a class, I hope, because I'm leaving on Wednesday morning. So I think that I hope I'll have enough time, and I would have packed and everything. So we will have our last class next Tuesday, and then we will not have a class for 2 more Tuesdays after that. Okay? Thank you.
Done?